The break is presented by Browning Trail Cameras. You've got to see this. Closed captioning is brought to you by Antler Extreme Nutritional Deer Products. This week on The Break.
So you want to be a amateur deer farmer? 95 degrees, and I've spent the last 2.5 hours trying to cut this thing off of our tiller that it picked up underneath this sprayed food plot. This stuff is not all fun and games. We have to work hard to kill these deer. You know, you always think doe's looking behind her, maybe there's a buck, but it hardly ever happens. Well, here it was. Well, here we are, second day of Missouri firearm season. Didn't really see too much the first day, saw a few does, little buck cruising. Thought I got a glimpse of a good buck, but I'm not really sure. Couldn't get any footage of him. Not very many sightings or anything on the other farms, so actually staying home at our main farm this morning. And we'll see what happens. Really warm weather. None of the deer hunters are too happy about the weather the way it is, but you can't kill them from the couch. So we're going to go to a box blind overlooking a food plot where deer a lot of times will feed before they go back to bed. So maybe we'll get lucky and catch one cruising by. Thanks for joining us on The Break. Hey! Bap! Bap! Yes! Oh my God! Yes! Oh! Oh my God, he's a giant! Look at this buck. Well, here I sit behind a magnificent white-tailed deer in northern Missouri. We have a good history with this buck. I'm 100% sure that this is the long brow tines 8-point that showed up last year. He rutted on our farm and then he was gone. Dad had an opportunity to go after him with a bow, but he slept in one morning. Gave us a great Browning trail cam pick, and reminder why you don't want to sleep in. And you know how sometimes you just make the right choice. Well, today I made the right choice. I decided to stay at this farm. Hadn't been seeing much at all. Really didn't have a shooter on camera. I don't have this deer on camera all season. But I knew there was a potential for a buck to show up, or a buck like this to show up, and lo and behold, I went to one of our box blinds this morning. Just as it was getting daylight, I looked out in my binoculars and saw this guy step out of the trees following a doe, and I waited as long as I possibly could so I could get camera light, but his doe started to walk out of the field. He was going to follow her, so had to get him stopped. Actually was able to get him to walk into this yellower grass, which allowed him to show up a little bit better, and then I put a 7mm round right through his heart. He didn't go 15 yards and piled up. So thank you again to all the sponsors, and thank you so much for being part of the break and joining us on this hunt so we can bring you stuff like this. And this deer's got an extra main beam, points everywhere. I don't know what he'll score, but he's a big body deer and I don't really care. I know he made my day this morning. And again, thank you so much for watching the break.
What Zac said there about, I don't know what he'll score and I don't really care, that pretty much sums it up for all of us on the break. It's not only about killing a Pope and Young or a Boone and Crockett buck, it's about putting in the time, working hard on your property, taking your kids hunting, hunting the animal that makes you happy, and enjoying the hunt. We all want to kill big bucks, obviously, but it shouldn't be the main focus. Get out there, enjoy it, and tagging a giant, that's just the cherry on top.
For as long as I can remember, the Browning name has meant something to people in the outdoors. So when I went looking for a trail camera that I could depend on, there was only one name that came to mind: Browning Trail Cameras. So if you're looking for a trail camera that's easy to use, is unbelievably reliable, and takes amazing pictures and videos, there's only one brand that I trust: Browning Trail Cameras.
Browning Speed combines advanced fabrics, tailored fit, and innovative camouflage. Hunt harder, faster, and stronger than ever. Speed, killer clothing.
This segment is brought to you by Indian Creek Shooting Systems.
This week on the break, Zac Hoenes is doing his thing in the deer woods.
Well, here I sit behind a magnificent white-tailed deer in northern Missouri.
Zac is also a guy that puts a lot of time into habitat management and food plots, and if you're doing that as well, you know things don't always go smoothly.
So you want to be a amateur deer farmer? We're dealing with a pretty much of a nightmare right now. Trying to get our last food plots in first week of September. 95 degrees, and I've spent the last 2.5 hours trying to cut this thing off of our tiller that it picked up underneath this sprayed food plot, and I have no idea what it is. Some kind of a big metal, like a shepherd's hook that you'd hang a planter on or something like that. Maybe a bird feeder, I don't know, but it's obviously something left over from old homestead that was on this property years ago. And this is an area that we've never tilled before. It's right next to a field where we tilled all the time, but it's not an area that we've tilled recently. So I don't know what happened, but this thing got hung up in the tiller. I heard it, immediately stopped the PTO and the tractor, and got out to inspect, and to my surprise I found this thing just wrapped up in the blades of the tiller. So I'm on 2.5 hours with a hacksaw, and I'm on my last piece trying to get this off of here. So thanks for joining us on the break. This stuff is not all fun and games. We have to work hard to kill these deer. Well, we got the ring built around our food plot, make it nice and safe. Gonna go ahead and burn the middle of it out. So we sprayed this stuff with Roundup a few weeks ago to let it get a good kill, and now we're burning that stuff off to make sure that we don't have a whole bunch of extra debris in our food plot. Certainly should be better. So while this burns, we know it's totally safe. We did let the fire department know so that we don't have any issues in case somebody sees the smoke, and that way they know what we're doing. So hopefully you're able to do the same. It certainly helps a great deal to get that litter out of there before you actually till up the ground. It certainly makes for a lot better seed to soil contact, which is what we're all after. So buck forage oats are going to go in the ground as soon as I'm done tilling this. And then we got 2 more to do. One's a brand new plot where I just hung a hawk tree stand, and the other one is a existing plot that we used to try to use as a garden, but the river just kept flooding it over and over. So we're going to convert it to a food plot, and it's right in front of the box that Alyssa normally hunts out of during youth season. So hopefully that food plot and the garden will pay dividends as well.
And Zac is ready to start cashing in on some of those dividends on the opening day of bow season.
Well, here we are, opening day of Missouri's bow season. This is the day that we all wait for. And even though it's kind of hot, we got a nice calm wind that's south-southeast. I've got a stand that sits right on top of a bluff where you've seen me hunt before that blows my wind with a south or southeast right over the bluff. Actually went in there and checked trail cameras about noon and busted some deer out of there, unfortunately, but gonna go right back in there anyway and hopefully give it a good run. So we'll see what happens. There's been a few really good deer running around here. We've got some great Browning trail cam pics, and we're ready to go. So thanks for joining us on the break. Opening day in Missouri. All right, here we are, opening day, northern Missouri. There's deer right there. There's deer.
Just a couple does and a fawn, but Zac does have a doe tag, and there's not a better time to fill it than early season, especially opening day.
We've been in the tree for 5 minutes. Hung my bow up. I was just about to do an interview, and 3 deer, 2 nice does and a fawn, came out, fed right here in front of me, and I smoked the doe. I obviously didn't draw down quite far enough on her because I hit her high, knocked her flat, did the right thing, got a new arrow in right away. The second chance arrow caddy, I had an arrow right here ready with me, and it gave us an opportunity to get the second arrow, get it right in her, and she's done right there in the food plot. So it is 6:35 on opening day in Missouri, and we just filled our antlerless permit. So thanks for joining us here on the break. Meat in the freezer.
Our veterans and those currently serving have selflessly volunteered for duty and risked their lives for the benefit of all Americans. With this in mind, the Niestedt Foundation was established to show gratitude for these individuals by providing the opportunity to participate in unbelievable outdoor experiences. Each event we organize is strongly rooted in our 4 guiding principles: respect, integrity, connecting individuals, and empowerment. Visit Niestedt.org to discover how you can create a brighter America for those who have sacrificed so much.
Saturday, November 19th, we're back in the blind. This is the second weekend of Missouri's firearm season. Saw some deer this morning, a couple of does early. Could have shot one of the does for sure. Nice big mature one, but we let her walk. Then saw a little 5 or 6 point buck. Saw a bunch of turkeys. Still continue to be real encouraged by the turkey sign on this farm, more than it's been in years. So really happy to see them. Hopefully that bodes well for the spring. Still after that big buck. I actually pulled several Browning trail cams while I was out this morning, and actually found a new shooter. Found a picture of a buck that we don't know, that I don't recognize him from any of my summer pictures, and he was on the farm November 4th and then on the farm again November 12th. Nobody's seen this deer, so we don't actually know. Like I said, we don't know exactly how big he is, but he seems like, certainly looks like a shooter. And then we've still got the nice big 8 that Brian's been seeing, and he's filmed that he's been gracious enough to let go because I think he wants me to kill him. But I hope either I'll see that buck or one of the new ones, or hopefully Brian will see that buck again, and if he gets a chance to kill him, that'd be awesome. So it'd be unfortunate if it wasn't on film, but would love to see him get one. So we'll see what happens. This late in the year, better hope no coyotes come out. I mean, I shot one opening morning. I'm sure not going to be shy about shooting one today. The wind is still howling, but it's supposed to lay down. These deer, it's gotten so cold, it's 25 degrees colder than it was earlier in this week. The deer are going to have to feed at some point. I just hope that they'll do it right out here in front of us in our nice standing soybean plots that we left for them. So we'll work really hard for just this reason, to make sure these deer have stuff to eat when they need it. So enough jabber, back to the hunt. Bap! He is dead right there. We've waited a long time, hunted in here a whole bunch, and just had a doe step out of the road. I got a little bit of footage of her, looked at her in binoculars, saw she was looking behind her, and you know, you always think doe's looking behind her, maybe there's a buck, but it hardly ever happens. Well, here it was. The buck stepped out, and they crossed out in front. I scrambled to try to get some footage. I know I got a little bit of him, and I know it wasn't great, but I also know that he stepped out there about 85 yards. He's within 20 yards of the buck I killed last year. And I put a shot on him, he made a big circle, and he's down right there in the field, so no complaints. So we got some work to do, and we're gonna have a buck to show off for our party tonight. And I'm sure he won't be big enough to make everybody happy, but he sure looked like a nice buck to me.
Well, we took our break on a buck tonight in northern Missouri. It is November 19th, second weekend of Missouri's gun season. We've been after this deer for quite a long time, and you know, this buck came out following a doe and put a good shot on him, got some good footage, and I'm happy to have it. So buck down for the break team, 2 years in a row right out of this very same box stand that my dad and my friend Brian built. You know, can't thank those guys enough for the help and the support. And, you know, definitely not my biggest buck, but we're very happy to have him to feed our family. And you know, thanks again for joining us here on the break.
Zach's buck tag is filled, so he took his friend Brian Barklage hunting in the same box blind, and wouldn't you know it, his target buck finally showed up.
You sure you don't want him?
No,
How many times you passed that buck down?
that makes 3 times. I've been watching him all week.
Yeah, and you tried to save him for me to kill him, and then I came up here and ended up shooting a smaller buck. So here I am this morning filming with Brian and hoping to shoot a coyote. Only have a doe tag in my pocket, and guess who shows up with that big buck again? So,
I'm hoping to see him again next year.
yeah. Well, I offered you to shoot him, but hey, you let him go. Thank you very much. You gotta,
Thank me next year if you get to see him again.
yeah. Well, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, we've had a great morning so far. We filmed 2 awesome bucks and some really good action for being 21st of November. It's definitely still on. Those bucks were cruising looking for some company. So either way, we'll hope to hit you later on in the season or maybe next year. See what that buck looks like. Thanks for joining us on the break.
Banks Outdoors is the place that connects family.
Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah. That was unreal.
This is the place that connects friends.
Yeah, bro, you did it.
What a phenomenal story.
This is the place that brings excitement.
3, bro. You guys.
Most importantly, this is the place where memories are made.
Buddy. Dad, I will never forget this moment.
Neither will I, buddy. Neither will I.
Why do I shoot in Indian Creek? He's deader than a hammer. Indian Creek once again.
The break is also brought to you by these fine sponsors.
So we're here at the farm today with Owen Zarka. Owen's my cousin. His mom Kendra and I grew up together. We're basically the same age. And Owen was lucky enough to join us on a youth hunt that we had out here. We had Owen out here. We had his grandpa Chuck, who's my uncle, and we had my daughter Alyssa. We all jammed in a blind during Missouri's youth season, and had an opportunity for the kids to get out and take a deer. But there was another connection to what we were doing there. In 2005, our family had a profound loss. We lost a young man, my cousin Sam. Sam was 20 years old, developed a real serious respiratory issue, and just unfortunately didn't survive. Something that to this day doesn't make a lot of sense to any of us, other than we know God has a plan, and that's the only thing we could say. But it was a very devastating thing for our family, for Owen's grandpa, Sam's father.
to lose his son, and to, you know, Owen's mother, Kendra, to lose her brother. It was just a terrible time. I mean, Owen was really young at the time, but another connection there, only a month after Sam's passing, my daughter Alyssa was born. And we also had Sam's gun along for this hunt. Is it correct, Owen? Yeah. So Sam had a really nicely engraved 6mm, you know, rifle that he'd used when he was about your age. I mean, he was, what, 14 years old, and he had killed quite a few deer at that point with that weapon, including one that was a pretty magical shot. He killed a 12 or 14 point buck. I don't remember exactly how big, but it was a really nice buck, and he shot it at 200 something yards. It was a heck of a shot for a young man to make, and just dropped it in its tracks. And so, you know, Sam was a big outdoorsman. So in a way, you know, with all of us out there in the blind that morning, we were carrying the torch for Sam. We were continuing where he left off for us, and I know I felt that morning. You know, I hope you did too. And it's the kind of thing that's really important. You know, when a family goes through something like that, you got to pick up the pieces and move on. And I know that's what Sam would want. As we got into this hunt, you know, it was kind of a cold morning. There wasn't a whole lot going on in the morning. What we had seen, like one deer early, is that right? Or maybe two?
Small doe, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a small doe, or we thought it might even have been a little buck out in the food plot, but you know, hadn't really seen a lot. So Chuck actually left the blind. Grandpa left the blind and went back to help my dad get breakfast ready. And we had some pretty good news for him shortly thereafter, didn't we?
Yeah.
Pick out one of those closest to. I'm gonna stop him.
Bap.
Go ahead if you're ready.
Bap. Bap.
Good job, bud. Which one are you gonna shoot? It doesn't matter, just pick one. You hit her. Yep, you hit her.
I was about to take one down there. The other one walked down and took off.
Yep. What do you think, man?
I think I made a good shot.
Hey, you knocked your hat off. Pick your hat up. Hey, talk to me, kid. What's going on?
Just shot a doe.
Well, we're gonna have to go check for some blood here in a little bit.
We were sitting in a stand and we were about to go back to eat breakfast, and like 5 does came down the road, and I was about to take a shot on one, but one walked out in front of it, so I had to wait. And then I moved over and put my sights on this one and shot.
Good job.
You know, Owen, with everything that's gone on, you know, with the you know, losing Sam and having the opportunity to see you grow up, and you know, the young man that you're becoming, getting ready to start high school, besides making you feel really old, and I'm sure your mom feels really old too, but I'm really glad that we were able to share that experience together, and Fortune certainly smiled on us that day. You know, just never forget your Uncle Sam, because he would have loved it.